It's February the 1st, 2022, and you know why you're here, so let's kick this off, right, and introduce the players. Hey, I am Gerissar, an auction house boomer. Oh, shoot.
Before the pre-show, but I had Panda Express for lunch, which is always a positive for myself. So yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Thank you guys for the invite. Obviously for myself, getting toward the end of the workday, so being excited about some of the stuff we're working on right now, which I'm sure we're going to talk about at some point during this podcast. But yeah, super excited to be here, and yeah, doing well.
All right, awesome, and we're so happy to have you here. Really, unfortunately, I of course forgot to push a button, so we just missed the very part of Bigmoran's introduction to you, but we got you, which is the most important part there, Adrian. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nothing unimportant was missed, right?
No. But fortunately, we're also recording this on a separate audio track, so the actual podcast audio portion is going to have all that perfection in it, like it should, because post production is magic. But I have to ask, I guess, yes, we're going to be talking about the new announcements for the 2022 esports, but I do like to always start off with what we've been up to for the last 2 weeks. So I'm asking. Oh, and yes, I forgot to do that too. I'm being told to do things in the background. In the meantime, Big, why don't you talk about what you've been up to in the last 2 weeks?
So actually today I got a new car, but it was actually an old car. I got a hand me up from my younger brother, which
Nice.
is slightly embarrassing, but I can't complain. So I took it to the car wash today, got it all polished up. It was quite dirty, not going to lie. But that was exciting because my previous car was pretty damaged. It took a huge beating from a very fast car who didn't stop. Yeah, that was very exciting for me today. I haven't really been playing WoW too much. I've been focusing on some guild cap stuff with a series called Road to Gladiator, which the first episode should be coming out soon. I've been saying that for the past few weeks, but it should be coming out soon, and I'm very excited for that super big project that I've been working on. So that's what I've been up to lately.
Nice. And you've been teasing that big project for a bit. I'm quite excited to see that come to fruition.
Yes, me too.
I can imagine. Adrian, what have you been up to the last couple weeks, man?
Well, for myself, when it comes to the gaming side, a good amount of TBC. I absolutely am in love with TBC Arena right now. They just started the new season 3, so I've been kind of re-gearing up my priest. I play both in US and in EU on TBC right now. I have a priest in US as well as a mage and a priest in Europe. So I've been having a ton of fun with that, trying to set up the new raids. I'm still looking for raid groups. So, if anyone has raids for the tier 3, do hit me up. But certainly on the PvP side, been having a good amount of fun with that.
Cool.
Outside of gaming, I mean, obviously I've had my work, and then something that I geek out a little bit about recently has been cricket. Actually, England's been playing in a T20 series against the West Indies, and it's been super close. I follow along the football transfer news since it's the January transfer for the Premier League in soccer in England. So things like that. Yeah, that's been a lot of my last 2 weeks.
Wow. That's a busy couple weeks. What is your, so I know healing used to be your big thing. Is that your still preferred role in the Burning Crusade stuff you're doing, or have you edged more towards the DPS side?
So in a lot of my tournaments, I used to play Resto Druid, but actually back in the day before I started playing my Druid, I was a priest through and through. So in TBC, I went back to my roots. I've been playing Discipline Priest in both regions, but I do have a soft spot for my mage Magicstat. So he is constantly making an appearance. I was 20 points-ish short of Gladiator last season on my mage, so that's the pet project right now.
Wow. Hey, so I have to ask one quick question because you just brought this up. This whole healing stat, magic stat, where did that name come from, man? Like where that?
It's
Where did that panache come from?
it's a good question. I must admit, I think I was probably somewhere in the 12 to 14 years old range when I made this name. So I didn't envision that it would become a persona that I would be known by to several people when I made that. But the story behind it is really nothing more than disappointingly so. Back then, when you created your characters for WoW, you had there was three boxes. I remember there was one that talked about the race that you were selecting, so a human or a troll. One that talked about the class you were selecting, and one that talked about the faction you were selecting. It gave a quick blurb for all of them.
Mhm.
So Magic Stat, my mage, was my first ever character, and the way that name came together was purely Stat was part of the description for one of those three boxes, and Magic was presumably in the mage box. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that works together, and there we go.
Magic stat.
Healingstat was my first healer, so that was the change from Magic Stat when I brought my priest out.
Nice.
I always like these stories of the names that people made when they were like 12 years old, But it could have been way
It
worse.
made
I
so
know
much
there's
sense back then.
yeah. And it could be way worse. There's this Smash Bros. Pro who his original tag was Dr. PP. Eventually he changed it to PPMD.
Yeah,
But
makes more sense.
not
Oh,
a very
man.
good name to keep
Yes.
in your late 20s, perhaps.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a screenshot that somebody put up on Twitter of a human paladin and their name.
Oh,
Recently.
there's a fantastic Twitter account called what's it called? Human Paladin Names, I think it's called. Yeah, Human Paladin Names. Human_Paladin. It's a fantastic Twitter account. I love Human Paladin Names. It's one of my. It's like it's my treat to see these goofy names pop up.
This conversation is reminding me of so many old memories. Like I remember back in the day, I had a undead mage where I followed the classic "I see dead people," things like that. There's so many good names like that you can
And yeah,
snipe.
like a gnome rogue named Stab Your Ankles. We all had those goofy
Yeah,
names at some point.
we just thought we were the coolest people ever when we came up with that name or saw it somewhere, and it's like, yep, that's mine now.
Yeah. No, there's always been some. I've never not been amazed by the intelligence behind some of the names that I see in World of Warcraft. It's like the creativity behind them. It just always gets me. But and always hearing the stories about where a name came from is always amazing. I think mine, Gerissar, was I want to say I rolled a human warlock and I just did a random click through and
I remember the random names. They were cool.
Yeah. And it was I think it was Jairus, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. It sounds like it's missing something. So I put an AR at the end of it and thought that was amazing. So
Yep. It's worked well.
Tis what it is. It's worked okay. I will say though, so for myself, the last 2 weeks, so I continued to push on the Mythic Plus front on my prop paladin. Did okay-ish. First week. This last week, I wasn't really happy about the affixes, and just IRL, I didn't really feel like putting in the time to push through with it was raging and tyrannical and that. So I was like, meh. So I just depleted a key, whatever. And again, I always say, I'm still trying to do the auction house magic and trying to corner the market on the ore. Unfortunately, I've completely succumbed to not trying anymore, because it looks like there's some people that have way more time than I do and are out there doing I don't know what, but farming immense amounts of ore, and I'm not selling nearly enough to upsell it to make the money. So I'm going to cut my losses and walk away from that little excursion. Yes, I started the intro with Auction House Boomer, only because Big, you were on a podcast, and I heard you say it, so I decided I was going to steal that. But I can't say I'm going to be an auction house boomer anymore. And the other thing, I dusted off my Disc Priest and took him into the Arathi Basin repeatedly for the comp stomp because, hey, who doesn't like to farm honor and meet some really cool people? So I was in there doing that and chit-chatting away with a bunch of the people that I was playing with and enjoying that.
Nice.
But yeah.
That reminds me of the solo shuffle as well that happened on Friday. That was super cool. I didn't play in it myself, but I was watching Benruki's stream the whole time, and it looked super, super fun.
I really
forgot about that.
I really like the new map a lot because I've always liked Tolvaron, I've always liked Nagrand, like the flat, like circular, contained maps where there's not much funny business going on, and it just felt like a perfect balance of like those two maps that I already enjoy. So I think it's honestly, it might be my new favorite map. I'm a fanboy of Nagrand Arena. That's my place. But this new arena, I forget what it's called, Maldraxian something. I don't know the name. I should know the name.
The Maldraxxus Arena.
Yeah, the Maldraxxus Arena is really fun, and I'm really excited to have that especially for the new season, for the new esports season. I think it'll be really fun.
Yes, I'm personally excited for it as well. And you actually reminded me because I was in there playing around too. I was hanging out over on the Oasis Discord. There's a whole group of them over there, and we're having fun.
Yeah, you saw me on the stream. I remember you messaged me. You're like, "Oh, did you queue into Cherry?" I was like, I think so. I don't know.
Cherry was representing the Mistweavers. I saw she was very proud of it.
Nice.
Yeah, doing a great job at it too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man! All right. Well, I think let's roll into the need, greet, and pass because this is always a fun little excursion, and then we'll start picking your brain there, Adrian, about the WoW Esports.
This likely won't be a clean fight.
Sounds good to me.
So keep your distance, eh?
Just had to get the bumper in there. I always love doing that. So little snippet from the arena voices, but need, greet, and pass. Fun little segment we like to do. I'm going to end up posing a scenario to you guys and listeners live and at home. You are invited to play along as well. So I'm going to provide some options, which you'll need to need on one, greet on the other, and pass on the last one, or whatever you want to do. Anyways, here we go. Let's see what I've come up with in the last 3 seconds of this show, because, of course, I was not prepared. So I got my little napkin here. All right, so since we're talking esports, we're going to talk the next Blizzard esport. So it's been decided that Blizzard is going to officially sponsor yet another esport. This is going to be on top of the AWC, the MDI, and the CAT. So which one is going to be our next esport we're going to be showcasing? Is it going to be classic dungeon runs? So this is going to be similar to the MDI, but instead of with mythic pluses and keys and affixes, this is going to be over on the classic side and just classic speed running of the dungeons. The other one is naked character races. So teams are going to have to create a brand new character and run them from a start point to a finish point naked. So no gear, no BOAs, nothing, no heirloom gear, nothing like that. Oh, and PvP servers.
That'd be fun.
PvP. And last but not least, it's going to be duels. But I'm thinking duels with a twist. So not just like your standard out in front of the gates of Stormwind and Orgrimmar, but some twist. And feel free to add in whatever that twist is going to be. So I think let's go with you first there, Big. I know you're usually pretty quick on the draw on these. What are your choices?
So I'm for sure gonna need on dueling with a twist, because I think duels are like a lost art in World of Warcraft. I think like if for anyone who's ever PvP'd, especially us boomers, right? Dueling was a huge part of kind of the PvP culture. And so, I like that throwback. Of course, there would need to be some tweaking, some balancing, because I know some classes like Feral Druids are insanely OP in duels, and like Windwalker Monks too. So that would be my need. Honestly, my greed would be the naked character race on a PvP server. And I say that because this happened at one point. I remember, I think it was Zaryu streamed a race from the top to the bottom of the east or the eastern continent. I can't remember its name on Azeroth. Eastern Kingdoms. He organized a race from the top to the bottom on foot. And it was streamed, and I remember it was kind of exciting. It was silly, but it was very exciting to watch. And so that'd be my greed, and then I'm gonna pass on the classic dungeon runs, unfortunately.
All right, fair. Adrian, how about you?
Yeah, this is a pretty good selection for, to use your words, napkin math. Just before we went to the section, this is a really tricky one. I love all options, and to be honest, we've also had conversations about exactly these or similar formats in the past as well. Just like when we're brainstorming different ideas for things, so they're all pretty spot on. I think it's need, greed, or pass. This is it's tricky for sure. I think so. That I'll tackle them the same order that Bigmoran did. I think Duels with a Twist is an interesting one because it's all in the twist, right? If Duels by themselves probably run into some balance issues, although I personally had a ton of fun playing in some of the classic ones that Tips Out put on back on classic launch, and I think I've seen a bunch of formats 1v1s or the 5v5 1v1s that are super interesting in this area. So I think that's a really cool format. The character races I could totally see being really, really cool as well. Especially when you have, let's say it was level 1s running through areas with level 50 mobs trying to avoid them or something like that. It could definitely see almost a Squid Games-esque style going on there. And then classic dungeon runs also I think could be really fun. I think I'm going to put I'm personally a really, really big fan of Jules. I think I would also put a need on that one.
All right.
Greed, it's a tricky one. I think I would still lean toward classic dungeon runs because I think there's a lot of perhaps it wouldn't be a full program, but I could totally see a world where there's like an event at the start of an expansion or something like let's go into these dungeons or a new season of Mastery. And when the heroics are really challenging and do an event there, I think that could be cool. And then I'll put a pass, but I don't really want to put a pass on it for the character race.
It's always a hard one. Is we have good choices. Like, which one do I pass on? All right, I have to put you guys both on the spot here. So, what's the exact twist you're going to put onto the duels, though? You say with the twist, but what's the twist? I'm going to go back to Big quickly. What's the twist you're going to put on that?
I actually think that the 5v5 Pokemon style, I think that would be a good twist. And I think it would, if you built a very specific team around that, and it reminds me of these events that they do at Smash Bros tournaments called crew battles, and I think it's based loosely off like some anime themes where you just have like a group of people and you just, one by one you send them out to fight, the opponent, and I really like that as the twist. I think that would work really well, actually, in the WoW format. And I don't think you'd have to do some tuning, obviously, but I think the Pokemon style would be the twist, I think.
All right. I like it. How about you, Adrian? What's the twist you'd put on it?
I think one of the things I remember way back at the BlizzCon 2015, we were doing some duels with each other on the tournament realms, and we would set up characters for each other. So, for example, once upon a time, I dueled one of the top mages competing at that event in a mage v mage. When obviously I don't compete on mage, so I got absolutely slaughtered. But I think something that could be interesting would be if the community was able to weigh in on it and maybe even select either some of the spec or some of the class that the players are playing to make it more of an even field. So we'd have to find a way of like, if it's two players, maybe they're both playing a class that isn't their number one class or something. Like maybe they have to play a mage mirror if they're a feral and a rogue, or maybe you'd have to force the feral to not play some talents that are super strong for mage or something and allow the community to get involved in those decisions. I think that would be something that would be pretty fun. Maybe you could have a best of 3 where one of them has an advantage on the class and the other one gets to pick their class next or something like that.
I'm suddenly envisioning a duel with class where the players get to do class bans, and then the Twitch chat gets to select the majority of what they're actually going to play as a spec for dueling out of the remainder. That'd
be super fun.
That would be amazing, actually. Ooh, I get chills on that one. Okay. All right. So I am going to all right. So I'm gonna need on the naked character races. Just because always a fun time. It's absolutely a blast. The fact that it'd be on PvP servers, so then that would even add the like you said, level 1 characters trying to go through a level 50 zone. That's always scary as heck. And then as the fact is also dueling, so now the players are going to be there's PvP, so now the players are going to be able to attack each other as well to try to take down their opponents to try to be the last character standing, if you would. So I think that would be absolutely fantastic, and maybe not a mainstay, but definitely a fun once in a while. I'm going to So this is I'm right back with I'm in the same spot that Adrian was just in now. Which one do I have to pass on?
It's tough, right? Because all three of them you could see being super fun.
They are. I'm okay. I'm gonna greed on the classic dungeon runs just so that I don't have to come up with a twist. So
there you go.
There you go.
I'm gonna cheat there. But yeah, so I'll greed on the classic runs. Just classic dungeons. I think you're right. If it's right at the beginning of the expansion, especially on live servers, that'd be just fabulous, because then you have people trying to speed run a heroic in greens and stuff like that. I think is just absolutely a blast to watch. See the people pull out all the stops on their characters, and even then, some of the expansions, some of the heroic dungeons were still pretty scary. Well into, I think the pit of Serenite still scares me every time I see that on Time Walking. So, and it's not like the gear scaling down is that scary on most of the other Time Walking. So I remember it was still pretty dicey as we geared through Wrath. But those are my choices. Again, people listening live, feel free to drop what you would need, greed, and pass on in chat. And if you're listening at home after hours, feel free to hop on over to our Discord, and our technically PvP show channel is there, and you can let us know what your choices are. In the meantime, let's move into the subject of analysis and start picking at Adrian's brain.
I'm gonna light you up, sweet cheeks.
Oh, yes. All right. So, hey, Adrian, like we started off the show with, like the title says, now that I fixed it, we're here to discuss the 2022 WoW Esports announcement that was just released the other week. You guys had quite a bit of information in there, laying out pretty much everything that's happening for this initial season. First and foremost, I'm going to ask you, which one are you more excited about? What are you most excited about this year?
I mean, like you said, there's a lot in that announcement. We really tried to cover all of our bases with updates for each of the different disciplines that we've been kind of growing and evolving over the course of WoW Esports in recent years. The classic tournaments, the arena, and of course the Mythic Dungeon International.
Mm-hmm.
What am I most excited for? I think actually this answer is pretty straightforward for me, because it's something that is near and dear to my heart, and I miss it a great deal, especially over COVID, and that's going to be having the finals hosted live with players on site again. Obviously, as per the announcement, we're not 100% locked in on that yet, but it's something we're very, very keen to do, and that's something. Firstly, I was very excited for us to be able to get that out there to the public, because as you know, we all know the state of the world. There's a lot of challenges with that, but it's something that got me into esports in the first place. I know it's a huge moment for the community, for all the players, and of course for the Arena World Championship itself. It enables us to have that global finals that we just haven't had in recent years, right? I remember fondly back to different BlizzCons and finals and things like this over the years. It's something that I'm excited for us to be able to replicate at that finals. So I think
Nice.
I'd say that's the thing I'm the most excited for.
Not gonna lie, that's pretty darn exciting, actually. So can you at least give us a hint of where it might be so we can start planning some travel? At least, like, is this
Yeah,
is it happening in Poland? Is it happening down in Australia? Like, where's the land gonna be, man?
nothing I can confirm today. Like I said, the biggest thing that for us is health and safety when it comes to this event. So we're still actively working through this. In fact, this has been a lot of some of my days in recent weeks as we look to finalize that. I will say more information to come soon on this topic. We haven't yet announced location, plans for the dates and everything like that, and that's just because we're monitoring the current situation. But it
Of
is
course.
something that we want to get out in front of the audience as soon as we're ready to.
All right. Oh, I'm excited. What about you, Big? Are you excited for lands?
Yeah, I think the lands are always interesting, especially when you have all the regions being represented in one place. I think for all things considered, I think there's these narratives that they're interesting to see play out kind of globally. And I think last AWC, where we had the finals separated in both regions. I think it was kind of course, you're doing the best of the situation that you're dealing with, but it was like, man, I wish I could have seen like the best EU team versus the best NA team. It would have been so nice. I miss that sort of regional competition.
Mm-hmm.
It really helps kind of develop the storyline of WoW Esports, and I mean I always look forward to it, especially like the LAN events. I love going to them. I love seeing Arena in person. It's a completely different experience, right, than watching it from your computer. And if I always say this, but if there's an opportunity for you, the listeners, to go to a LAN event, I would highly recommend trying to do it, as if possible,
Completely.
because it is really one of the truly like the most moving experiences. And if you need any motivation to play play WoW, I mean those events really motivate you to want to compete. So it's really fun.
Yeah, I agree. LAN LAN just doesn't beat it. Nothing like thousands of screaming fans, especially at BlizzCon. It's thunderous. It's so amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Should let me. Here's my money. Let me buy tickets now.
Yes.
I guess let's get into some chronological. Let's talk about what's coming just around the corner here, which is the Classic Arena Tournament, the CAT. So first and foremost, I noticed right off the bat the prize pool this year is much beefier than it was last year. Is this a double down that Blizzard's putting into the CAT? Is this kind of a throwdown to really drive more people into that, or like what was the choice behind that?
So I think for us there was two primary kind of driving factors in the prize pool for the Classic tournament. The first, let's just talk about it from the perspective of Classic. We really loved the Classic Arena tournament that we hosted for TBC last year. It fell on what was quite frankly difficult times for Blizzard, of course, but the actual event itself was kind of a bastion of positivity. We got great feedback on the developer interview with Holly Longdale, and she did a fantastic job in that
Yes.
conversation with Venruki. We also had a ton of fun with the games, right? Like the games are completely different to what we have on the Arena World Championship, and we really want to make sure that we have, something for everyone when it comes to being a WoW fan. We want to, service the PvE community. We know there's a vast range of interest there when it comes to the Race to World First, Mythic Plus, and then also Arena World Championship for the PvP community on the retail side. But when it comes to Classic, it's something that we know we've always kind of experimented with different ideas. We've done some battleground tournaments and things like that, but this year we really wanted to kind of double down on what we had last year. That includes some stuff that isn't announced, which is hinted toward a little bit in the announcement. We didn't go through absolutely everything for the year, but there is more to come on the classic side as well. But the second point specifically on prize pools is we really liked last year some of the one-off events we did, right? We did this classic tournament, of course, was a first experiment for TBC. We also on the PvE side had the Great Push, which was also a event that we really, really liked and we knew we wanted to grow this year. But candidly, one of the things with the experimental phase of that event was that we kept the prize pools low on it. But we want to make sure that whenever we are doing these one-off events, we're putting in a good chunk of change that makes players, driven toward the event. They want to put in the time, they want to try win it, and kind of bring the best to the competition, and make sure that we're respecting that. So it's also, very exciting to be able to say, hey, this classic arena tournament, 1 or 2 weekends, $100,000. I think that's really, really cool. But that's kind of some of the behind the scenes what we're thinking when we're making those decisions.
And I have one question related to the Classic Arena tournament, because I think the biggest difference in tournament format between the AWC is that it's restricted to a 3-man roster. Is that correct?
Yep.
So what's the logic behind that? Why is that set different than the AWC?
I think there's a number of different factors. It comes down partially to the game itself, like what demands of the players are on the game, the tournament realms, things like that. But it also comes down to the scope of the program. I think something like Arena World Championship, since it has so many weekends, right? Like the qualifiers, the circuit, which is super fun, and then the live finals. The demands on a player's time are very different to something that's more of a one-off, one-time event, right? Where you can probably commit as a group of 3 to playing in that tournament, or not, in which case you might look for the next tournament. So I think both of those factors go in, but I mean, to be honest, these are conversations we have actively. I always have strong opinions on things like 3 versus 4 player rosters for AWC, and even on the MDI side, right, 5 versus 6 player rosters there. It's something we investigate. There's a lot of factors, pros and cons against it, but I'm happy with the 3-man rosters for the TBC tournaments, just because I think it works nicely with the time commitment for the players, but also it just makes the game super fun when the teams go in with just 1 or 2 compositions.
Yeah, I think I want to lean back quickly on that, because I remember, Big, you were talking with D Machine there on his dojo specifically about that. So it was interesting that whole conversation, exactly the same thing about do you have 4 players, which then has the more comps, the wider breadth of characters, classes, specs, more paper rock scissors in the toolkit, versus well, I guess what we all have experienced growing up watching AWC, where you have the team that just played Rogue Mage Priest and just was absolutely amazing at Rogue Mage Priest, but they had nothing else. So or Shadowplay even, right?
Yeah. I always think like the 3-man rosters really help solidify certain play. It really helps solidify players into comp archetypes, or like one specific comp. And I admittedly I do miss that a little bit with AWC. I know the game itself has changed dramatically, where that's not necessarily, you don't want to limit yourself to one comp, but I'm always open for a rule change. But obviously, a lot of the players probably aren't ready for a real rule change, because a lot of the rosters are already built around the fact that you can have a 4th player and multi-class and do all this crazy stuff with composition. So I see both sides of that argument for sure.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So you can't tell us about any other future tournaments, but like you said, this one specifically says that it's the season 3 cat, and that there's some other stuff coming in the future. So I guess we'll just have to stand by and wait to see what happens in season 4 of Burning Crusade Classic.
Yeah, I mean, I won't get too far ahead of myself, but I will say that some of the stuff that we're looking at may be surprising. It's not going to be necessarily cut from the same the same slate that we've done for some of the other WoW Esports competitions. We really do have a focus. Last year, I was pushing this agenda a lot with things like the Great Push on the PV side, and we really want to use opportunities this year to try new things, right? We love the products that we already put out there, the Mythic Dungeons National, the Arena World Championship. But as we started to tease in the announcement, for example, we have some events planned for later on for the PvP on retail, where there'll be one-off events experimenting in new ideas. And the same is true for Classic as well. So again, won't get too far ahead of myself in announcing those. Some of them, quite frankly, a part of the reason that I don't want to get into announcing them is because some we're very close to solidifying and getting that information out to the public. Some we're still working on it. So I'm really open to anyone who's listening or conversations I have with players, talent, the community in general, what kind of things they'd like to see. We at the need greed pass at the top of the show. Some of those ideas are things we've talked about in the past for one-offs, and maybe there's a world that with the right opportunity, the right format pitch, that we could explore some of those in these one-offs. So it's definitely something. Again, 3 versus 4 player rosters for AWC, something we talk about a lot. There's a good possibility that we experiment in that area if we do some retail arena tournaments outside of AWC. It's just, I'll say the world is our oyster to some extent there. Like, we really want to create stuff that's new and fun for the community, and maybe deviate a little bit away there just to just see how it performs and see what the demand is.
And speaking of the community, I think I heard that the Vanquisher title will be available from this tournament. So can you tell maybe our viewers how they might get the Vanquisher title if that's something they're interested in?
Yep, for sure. I appreciate you setting me up for my plug. The Classic Arena tournament. So the signups are currently open. This is something we've really liked doing lately, is trying to have the prize pools for the very top players, but make sure there's something there for someone who perhaps isn't trying to win the Classic Arena tournament, although you never know, but does just want to get involved and play in the tournament. So the Classic Arena tournament signups currently open. Get a team of 3. The tournament structure is a double elimination tournament. So similar to the Arena World Championship, you'll play 2 matches in a bracket round. If you win your match, you'll get an extra match each time. But if you lose, you're not eliminated from the tournament. You play in the lower bracket. And in order to get the Vanquisher title, you just need to win one of your series. So you have to compete in your series during the tournament. And if you win one of those, you're already guaranteed the Vanquisher title. So 50% of the teams playing will earn that title.
Nice.
Very nice.
And that's, I think, an improvement, because I remember the last cat, there was also a title with that, and a number of players were extremely disappointed because essentially the way the cutoff worked, it ended up being the teams that all made the money also all got the title. Right? So I like this change. That's really good.
It is something we took to heart, and that comes back down to feedback as well. It's something we're super open to. And I think one of the things with the Vanquisher title that we think now is that a lot of the players at the very top likely branding their Rank 1 and Gladiator titles anyways, right, alongside their Vanquisher titles. So we wanted to make sure that this was open to a wider player base. And then, for future Classic tournaments, we might have something else there, either for that wider player base or for the top players. But again, I don't want to go into too many spoilers there, but those conversations are ongoing.
Damn it, Adrian!
I know I'm too political on some of those things. The political non-answers.
You're like a safe man. You've been taking lessons from Helinka and Ian, haven't you?
Yeah. I should shout out my PR team, because without them, I would be an absolute mess. If Eric Elliott is watching, this guy trains me. So any good press job that I'm doing, it all comes down to him.
Awesome. We do love Eric as well, because he helped us set this up with you, and he does keep us informed on the backside of. Same time that announcements go out, you usually get a nice little info pack that gives us a whole bunch of the juicy information. So we really love Eric as well. I guess just quickly before we move on to the AWC, I did notice that there's going to be a few items that we're not going to see played in the cat. Things like the Mind Quickening Gem, a few other little trinkets and toys. Where did that come from? Was that truly, again, feedback from the community, feedback from the players, or was that something from your own personal experiences of playing TBC, or where'd that come from?
Yeah, so a lot of those decisions come down to two things. Firstly, whenever it comes to any tournament on Tournament Realm, we want to try mirror live as much as possible, and that's something that whenever we have questions about items and things like this on retail or classic, you'll probably see a common theme in my answer is going to be tied to that. So recently, we work super closely with the classic dev team when it comes to these tournaments, of course, and they made a number of changes to things such as the belt isn't available for use in Season 3, the engineering belt. The MQG was modified as well to be less desirable in that bracket, and we want to make sure we're mirroring that. And then the second factor that goes into a lot of that is also community feedback. We work super closely with our player base on these things, and we want to make sure, at the end of the day, we want to mirror the live experience, and we also want to make the event as fun and enjoyable for everyone competing in it and everyone watching the show. So that's kind of the grounding principles there. I think the only item so far that hasn't been allowed that are set that way in live is the warglaives, the weapon. The main reasoning behind this is because the tournament is so soon into the patch that most people don't have that item yet on live. I'm sure it's going to have a huge impact on the meta once people do have it. But majority of the players, given the drop rate, won't have that by the time of the tournament. So we didn't want to, have every single team running around with warglaives, so that when you go and watch the tournament, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have that item yet, and you can see it owning. So that's something that we currently have disabled, but every other item is the same as live.
All right,
Very nice.
good to know.
And so that's what's going to be happening in February, right? From the 12th to the 20th is the Classic Arena tournament. But then what we have looking forward to in March is the AWC. We're going to see the return of everyone's favorite, at least my favorite, Arena World Championship. And so, Adrian, can you tell us a little bit about the format and how it's going to work? If there's going to be any major differences from last year?
Yeah, certainly. So the Arena World Championship is back, starting shortly after the Classic Arena tournament, as you noted. I think the biggest thing that we really wanted to focus on when it came to how we invest our time, energy, and everything for this year is the live event. So that is going to be the big change for the Arena World Championship, especially because, of course, the previous format had us doing our cup qualifiers into our circuit and then a regional finals, which, as we talked about at the start, obviously that is super epic and we saw some incredible games as a consequence of that. But it's the Arena World Championship, right? At the end of the day, in a perfect world, what we really want to achieve out of it is that World Championship element. And that's something that we're really driving toward this year with the AWC. So overall format, we're starting out with the cups for the qualification spot. Those are open signups. I encourage everyone listening to go try it out. Personally, I started way back. We were talking about the name of Healingstat. I started as someone who just played in those cups for fun, and then I got rather good at them over time, right? So these things totally can happen. And even if you aren't aiming to win, you've got a very good chance of playing against some of your heroes, some of the people at the very top of their craft when it comes to WoW PvP. So I think it's just a ton of fun. Open signups, you can just grab a team of 3 or 4 people and play. And then, similar to last year, the top 8 teams will qualify per region to the AWC circuits for their region, where they will vie to, get their spot at the finals.
Nice. I guess. So this is pretty much just exactly what we've seen last year and the year previous, with the exception of the culmination to hopefully an actual physical LAN rather than the online cup. So I guess with that, then, unlike the last year with COVID and everything, where you had the EU champions and the NA champions, we're actually going to end up with a one team to rule them all, if you will. So
Mhm.
I gotta ask, which it always comes down to the EU versus NA. It seems like if it comes down to it, which side? Because I mean, you came from the UK, now you're living in on stateside. Which side are you gonna cheer for this time?
That's a good question. I'm cheering that everyone has a good time. No. Uh, I don't think I cheer for a particular region. I mean, I love the teams who really go out there. You know, they're talking.
Mhm.
You know, I think of people like Peekaboo, CD, Waz, like these guys who are putting so much time into, you know, growing out their branding, letting us into a little bit of the behind the scenes of who they are as a player, and how they
Totally.
deal with day-to-day life. So I really enjoy when the players are out there streaming and producing their YouTube videos and everything like that to give us insight. So you're always going to have a little bit of rooting for these teams, but I'm also, as a UK person, I'm a huge fan of the underdog. So I remember one of my favorite teams way back at EU regionals. Gosh, maybe 2017, was Jim's team. And one of my favorite things about them was,
Yes.
no one really talked to them too much. They were just insanely good at one comp that no one else could play at their level.
Mhm.
And even Voltarius, the monk they played with, he would like click some of his abilities, and this guy just did the most damage of any Windwalker back then. Absolutely crazy, and they caught everyone off guard, just smashing their way to the BlizzCon that year. So I uh, I honestly I love a good story. I'm a sucker for a good story. If there's a team like the Sea-Doo story where they've overcome adversity to qualify and make it and win the
Yeah.
tournament, then I love that. If it's an underdog team playing one composition, such as the EU Jungle Cleave we had this past year, I'm all for that as well. So I guess that's my answer. A sucker for a good
Hey,
story.
I don't mean to tease you too much, Adrian,
Yeah.
but you are a back-to-back BlizzCon, runner-up, and so I think
Is
I
it
think the
time to
only,
make the return?
I think it's time to make a return. But I think one person who I'm wanting to win BlizzCon so bad is your fellow contemporary Zuniaki. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's due for his for at least one win. I think he's been second place a few times as well. And so if we could see the return of or the story of Zuniaki winning AWC in 2022, 2023, whatever it is, I'd be there to see it for sure. One quick question though, because we were just talking about item restrictions for the Classic Arena tournament. One of the biggest changes that's going to be happening in the next patch is that you're going to be able to equip 2 legendaries. I don't know. I don't think we've had an official 9.2 release date yet, but presumably it might be around the same time as the tournament. If the tournament is after 9.2, will we expect to see double legendaries be played in the tournament?
Yeah. So great questions. I think so. The tournament will be in patch 9.2. That's the first bit there, without giving anything further away on that front. The biggest the biggest component of uh, the philosophy when it comes to what items are available when really comes down to, uh, similar to what we were talking about earlier, the what's available on live. Uh, Double legendaries is going to be a big point for PvP. It's going to be really, really exciting, I think, when it's available on the live game, and that's something we totally
Yeah.
want to mirror. So we don't have uh, the exact, like, from day one double legendaries will be available, or by the circuit the legendaries will be available at this stage, but we do have the um, we do have the kind of founding principle of, like, as soon as the day that the double legendaries are available on the live servers, that's the day that we would have uh, the double legendaries available on the tournament servers as well.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, kind of like what we saw with the renown, as the live server renown cap kept going up, then the TR cap went up. So we saw that as well with conduits and that for last season. Um, Are you guys going to allow for the raid tier gear as well? Sorry, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
With all
boy.
that, we're trying to follow what happens on the live servers. I think it
Wow.
would be disingenuous if we tried to run an Arena World Championship on one meta and a live game on another meta. And we've really tried in the last year or so to, even with Renown, right? We were upgrading it on the TR at the same rate it was upgrading on live. We're trying to build out tech that allows for these things. And I mean, personally, I'm really excited for the impact of some of these things too. Like, I can't wait to see it play out. There's so many new things happening in the game with the tier sets, with the double legendaries. I am genuinely curious to see how that impacts the meta, and crucially, which teams are quickest to adapt to that.
Yeah.
I'm personally excited for the tier sets. I know that's kind of been a
Mhm.
point of contention among the competitive players, but I was playing in those solos shuffles the other day, and
Mhm.
I was getting tree form procs randomly. I was like, what the heck is putting me into tree form? And I realized I still had my tier set equipped on the TR. I was playing Boom. I love the Boomkin one. The Boomkin 4 piece is amazing. You just launch Star Surges like 8 in a row. But like the Resto Druid, when I was getting put in tree form periodically, I'm like, it's tree form. I love being in tree form. I wish I could have this more often, and you get to do that with the legendaries. So I'm personally looking forward to all of the tier sets and the double legendaries. They're I think anything to spice up the game is really fun, and
Mhm.
it really I think when you have access to gear like this, you really get to see who's good at playing tournaments. I mean, there's a difference
Mhm.
between playing the game and playing a tournament. And so the strategy that goes into building your gear. And I remember way back a few months ago, I think we had Gerissar, you had Azale and Ruki on the podcast, and Azale was talking about that. That was such a huge part of tournaments way back in the days. Like, players would hide the gear that they're using. And I like that sort of stuff. I think anything to add flavor to the competitive experience is fun. So yeah, looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, totally. I think that's like an important word that sometimes we forget when it comes to these things, but it really needs to be a driving factor whenever we make decisions. Is like, what is the most fun, right? Like, we want
Yeah.
to make the game fun, we want to make the broadcast fun, and something like tier sets has the potential to be really, really fun, and that's something that excites me about them. Of course, we're still in PTR testing rounds right now. Feedback's going out about certain edge cases, and the community is talking about it. It's a super active point because it's something new, of course. But I think we all do ourselves a favor by like looking at stuff like that, right? Corruption, originally people were scared of change, but I think in the end, some of the haste values you could play with at the end of BFA, things like that, they were genuinely very fun, or at least I thought so. It's just about monitoring that feedback as it comes in, which we're always trying to work closely with the dev team, especially since we have such close relationships with a lot of the high end players. But all things considered, I'm super excited for them. So I hope that we get to see them transparent broadcast and what that actually means for the meta.
Nice. Not. This is going to sound a little weird, but I know that a number of teams that organize they lost their orgs, they lost their sponsors, and that. Just kind of curious if you just saw Team Liquid, they just got picked up, which is absolutely amazing. It's great to see Liquid throwing their hat into the World of Warcraft esports and that. Is there any hints of some other organizers coming in to sponsor some of the other teams? I know that there's a number of teams that are still looking to try to get sponsors, and it's just, I don't know. Is there anything from your point of view you're seeing?
Yeah, well, firstly, the Liquid thing was super cool, right? Like, I didn't quite get the same experience as everyone else because I was in conversations with them since the end of last year about some of these items. Obviously they picked up the Race to World First Skilled Limit as well as AWC team, CDU's team, which was super, super cool. And their entrance, I think they did a great job of making a mark on those. They immediately had the charity event alongside Echo for Rad as well, which I loved everything about them, and they're a great organization. working with them already has been an absolute delight. So that was obviously one of the highlights of my week last week when that was announced.
Nice.
The other orgs, we're constantly talking with different organizations. I know there's teams looking for that, and it's something that, especially on the AWC side, we've done a lot to try and kind of push it in the way that there's attraction for orgs there, right? Like, I think live events is suddenly going to be something that is attractive to them just because you want to have more of that exposure out there, and that just comes with a beacon event, like something that's hosted at a LAN. But also with the circuit, right? Like, you've got teams playing consistently each week. There's the guaranteed, like, once you qualify for the circuit, you are playing in all the circuit weekends, which is also very attractive to an org. So, we continue
See
these
that.
conversations, and I think a lot of it also comes down to the teams and the players. There's a lot of players that are doing really, really good job of building out their Twitch channels, their YouTube channels, their social
Yeah.
media profile, and that's also something that's really attractive there.
I have to ask, have you seen an increase in people jumping to try to sponsor now that the Microsoft announcement came out?
I mean, I can't comment too much on the Microsoft announcement
Of course.
specifically, but I will say that I think overall for World of Warcraft and Blizzard, this year has already got off to a really strong foot, and that's always something that's going to attract more people to the scene, whether it's players returning, orgs looking to invest, any of this. It's just good for the entire ecosystem, and without teasing too much, I know of several things that are coming up this year that will give even more reason for that excitement to exist. So
Nice.
personally, when I look at the year, this is one of the most excited years I've been at to work at Blizzard, and I'm genuinely excited for what we have coming up in terms of esports, but also in terms of the game at large, because obviously the two feed off of each other when it comes to World of Warcraft quite heavily, and we all love the game. We all benefit from the game doing well, and it's something that I am very excited for this year.
Of course. You're getting me hyped every second you keep talking, Adrian. Not gonna lie. I want it to be June already. Come on, man. All right. I'm gonna steal this one from Choice out of our chat because it is a fabulous question. The add-on policy. So for the longest time, there was a zero add-on policy. Then that was lessened back in 2019.
Mhm.
There was a restricted list of add-ons, but as far as I understand, that was only for the LANs, right? That nothing was actually used. Was there actually any restrictions of players when they're playing from their computers at home on the online tournaments?
So we don't have restrictions on add-ons, particularly beyond that of terms of service and monitoring in that kind of area.
Okay.
In terms of the add-ons that are regularly available to players when they play the live ladder, that is something that we have allowed for all the arena tournaments. And again, that kind of comes back to this push for accessibility of the tournaments.
Okay.
It would really suck if you're someone who's just trying to get into arena, you see the tournament, you want to sign up, and then suddenly you might not be someone who's immediately trying to win the next world finals, but you're also being slapped down by an admin. Oh, you can't use that add-on, So we wanted to make that as close to the live experience as possible.
Okay. But when it comes to the LANs, though, are players going to still be able to use? Like, is that continuing with the add-ons, or is there still going to be that restricted list? Is the list changing a little bit, or is it going to be back to zero add-ons at LAN?
So this is something we're still actively discussing. Honestly, it's been a long time, right, since we were able to last do live events because of the world state right now,
Okay.
and there will be things that have to change. Even going back on that list, I reviewed it at the end of last year, and it's just not in date for what we have this year. I think over the course of the season, we're going to keep a close eye, have conversations with competitors, and see what we want to do with that. I'm personally of the opinion that I like things being close to live and trying to open up in that capacity. I think it is a more true reflection of how players play the game, and if you play the game in a certain way with those tools, then it's something that we want to enable you to have the majority of those tools. With that said, there are some things that might cross our bars when it comes to live events, and that's where that add-on list and any restrictions would be put in. So it's also easier for us to monitor when we decide which add-ons are there, just because if every team comes with their own customized scripts for every situation, then you have to spend a lot of time going through all of the different teams, asking what does this script do, what does this script do, etc. So I imagine there will be some sort of restrictive list there, though I don't know how much further we'll go than what we had back in 2019.
Okay. So still no Gladiator Losa, Roger. Okay. All right. So once actually this is going to kind of splice into the AWC, but definitely go past it. Is the Mythic Dungeon International is once again back. I know this is your bread and butter for the last year and a half, right there, Adrian. This was your baby.
Mm-hmm.
So run it, man. What's going on this year?
Yeah, so I mean, this is the thing that I've really been putting the majority of my time and effort into prior to this year. So last year I was very much focused on the PvE side of things. How do we want to grow that out? And I think I'm really excited with where we landed for this year with the MDI. So firstly, of course, similar to AWC, we will have I won't say will, Eric will get annoyed at me, but we are really, really trying to push to hopefully confirm that we'll be able to do a live event for the finals. That's something that is core to what we want to achieve this year. And of course, it is just subject to, us monitoring what's happening with COVID. So I'm really excited for. It's been a long time since we've had all the players on site, and sure, for MDI we don't quite have the same challenge of AWC where we can still have the global finals since they all play in their respective tournament realm. But nonetheless, we're going to be able to get all those interviews with the players in sight. We're going to be able to grab all those headshots, all that media. It's just amazing, right? Like the live event is something that is truly a show definer that I cannot wait for. So that is something first. Secondly, we are looking to build out the Great Push this year. That's something that's really been a focus point for us in terms of M+. With MDI last year, we went through a couple of different iterations of the main product. We started with cups, very similar to what happened on AWC. And we actually decided to pivot that for the second half of the year, switching over to this groups format, which there was a few different reasons behind this, but one of the driving reasons was we really wanted to find a way of reducing the time commitment for some of the groups, since PvE, you are running those same dungeons, and often we'd see the same matchups each week, without too much variation there in results. And we wanted to give an opportunity for different teams to come out, again, increase that accessibility, have more teams showing up on the broadcast. And it was actually really fun because we saw a ton of upsets. In fact, fun fact from the groups, none of the number 2 seeds qualified to the global finals through their group. All of them were upset by some other team from their bracket. So that was something that was even took us by surprise, to be honest. But it was great to see some of the new faces, and some of them I've seen streaming recently. They've grown out their following, which I absolutely love to see that stuff. But also, it really meant that every weekend mattered, right? Like if you messed up your weekend, you had to go to that last stand tournament, and boy, that last stand tournament was super competitive. All 6 teams were crazy good, and that's just that's what you have to contend with now. So it made all the broadcast weekends much more exciting. And then TGP, obviously the Great Push. I think a lot of people were very, very happy with that event. We iterated on it a little bit for the second season, and we're going to be expanding and iterating on it for the third season as well. So we didn't announce too much news on that in the original announcement, but it will be taking place just after the global finals, and more information to come, once we get a bit closer to the event.
Nice. Yeah. I actually liked the Great Push more than I guess the first couple iterations of the MDI. I did like that whole cup, the groups that you guys did, because it then like you said, it wasn't always the same familiar faces. It wasn't all these teams, and then it was all boiling down to the same team at the very end, or the same couple teams fighting for the first or second. It definitely allowed for more variation. But yeah, the Great Push was just absolutely a blast to watch. Watching these teams, some of them trying to very calculating. Do we do the next key? Do we try to do that key and try to push it faster, or do we switch back over to the other dungeon? And watching everybody, and I really enjoyed the last one where you guys had the mystery dungeon where every new day was a new dungeon. That was great. For the
I love that as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did. I remember a lot of comments in the chat seemed to be very positive feedback on that. Just pivoting back to the MDI, are we going to see again class and spec restrictions to limit class stacking in the groups, or is that going to disappear? We're going to go back to seeing arms or prop warrior, 3 rogues, and a mage.
Yeah, so that's something that it's a good question. I know that I normally give the answer if I want to copy live as best as possible, but this is somewhere where we decided we wanted to draw a line, just because when you are going to those very specific high-end scenarios, right, like people are going to do everything in their power to win, and sometimes inevitably that's going to mean more than one of a certain class or spec. We are keeping the rules the same on that front for MDI this year. The main kind of thinking behind that is that whenever you do tune into a World of Warcraft esports broadcast, we want to try get a good range of classes and specs. And metas change between season and season, but it's something where if you're seeing 3 frost mages on the show, maybe one of those frost mages could have been a different class, and an opportunity for someone else to see their class up there. So we thought this was a good way of looking toward achieving that goal without putting too much of a barrier on teams, right? Like you should still be able to find a group that has those different specializations in it and participate in the tournament.
Nice. Yeah, I expect that many of the teams won't have too much of an issue pivoting on that. Like most PvE players are used to playing, especially at that level, used to playing more than one class. But no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And so this is a Gerissar thing. Are we gonna actually see the China Cups? Are we actually going to see the China group stream and compete, or is this going to be because it seems like everything has been peeled back to just NA and EU, and there's a whole region there, that this whole Asia region, that is running to try to get a team, and really, I mean, we saw it at the Last Stand and in the other subsequent tournaments of some phenomenal gameplay coming out of Asia. I understand that it's not YouTube, that they have their own streaming platforms and that, but is there going to be something where that's going to be, I don't know, readily made available or in some way informed, so that we, the player base, or this enthusiastic viewer community, can go and watch those games as well?
Yeah, so I think this is something, especially on the MDI side with China. And one thing I've really liked about how we've been doing the TGP and the Last Stand tournament formats is that we were able to just directly put those Chinese teams in with the EU, NA, and the rest of the global teams, right? We have Obey Alliance, they're fantastic roster from Australia as well. It's I really love that about MDI, and it's something that I want to make sure we're continuing to integrate. So China will still have its own separate qualification for the groups, just like it did in season 2 of MDI, though we do intend on having any teams that don't qualify through that, similar to teams that don't qualify through the MDI groups, playing in the Last Stand tournament. For the China finals itself, we are still looking at different ways of like, how could we have the maybe the highlights of the team that qualified as part of the package when the live event comes around to tell that story.
Nice.
And also media and interviews for that team, so we get the opportunity to learn about them. Because I remember, I think that's a big thing when it came to pen and paper on the AWC side, for example, right? Like
Yeah.
being able to introduce us, tell that story, and sometimes that can really help to give insight into the finals. On the previous MDI show, we had the package put together by our awesome partners over in China, where they introduced the two teams who had qualified, and I think creating that connection is very important. We don't have a plan to broadcast the entire Chinese final over on YouTube currently, but I think this is a good substitute that we want to roll out for the MDI teams.
I'm excited. I say that's the one thing because it as a viewer, as a person that's passionate to watch this and AWC or pretty much any of the WoW Esports, knowing that there's tournaments happening over there that's part of that whole road to the MDI or road to the BlizzCon even, and not be able to see them is a little frustrating. Not gonna lie. That's Gerissar's hot take for the date.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I think that's something where we want to have the accessibility again, and it's something I take on board for sure.
All right. I guess. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking so much. I feel bad, but because I have a co-host that's right here, but on the other side.
He's chilling with his shades right now.
Yes. Chilling with the shades and wearing sunglasses indoors with my windows open. My neighbors must think I'm crazy, and I was like, what the hell is this guy doing staring at his monitor with sunglasses? He must be playing some intense games.
You're in the Empyrean domain, man.
but so I'm a PvP enthusiast. I don't know much about PvE, and so I spent some time in Mythic Dungeons, but I do know enough that there are these affixes, and there's a new seasonal affix called Encrypted. How are you expecting that to impact the gameplay in this upcoming MDI?
Yeah, I mean, the Encrypted affix looks super fun. I think one of the big things I observed about it immediately when I saw it in the testing is it's just super different to what we've had in season 1 and season 2 of Shadowlands, and that will end up impacting the the routes that people take, the time that people take in the dungeons. In both season 1 and season 2, we had kind of this big scary lieutenant that took a lot of time to kill, and teams would try to group it up with other mobs or other bosses. But with Encrypted, it's a little bit different, right? Like the damage profile you're using to deal with the affix by prioritizing which one you want to kill first before you spawn the little boss. That's also going to be something that's interesting that we haven't had in terms of kind of the dynamics of the choice there. And I mean, I know that these are going through testing passes as we speak each week. I think there was a new build that came out last week for Encrypted. But it's going to be really interesting to see what the impact of some of those bonuses are going to be when it comes to what the groups are picking. Like, for example, one of them is a mass stealth right now. Is that going to be something that teams don't need to take a rogue if they want to do a previous skip? Does that enable a new class to come out? Or maybe it's something where you still bring the rogue and you go for a different skip, or it's adding more to the choice there. And I think the combination of those two things really excites me. Plus, of course, we're going to have the brand new Tazavesh dungeon in for the first time, and that place is just absolutely gorgeous. So both the Mythic Plus wings of that opening with the next season, we're going to see those all over MDI as well.
Oh man, I totally forgot about that. That's going to be awesome. Ooh.
Yeah, I've been spending a good amount of time on PTR going through Tazavesh, just like looking at all the things and training myself on what potentially is going to be very fun to look at, but also what bugs people might try and look for, because that's always something that we have to be aware of. And it is just absolutely stunning, that dungeon. Like, I genuinely think that's the most pretty dungeon I've seen. Like, I try and think back, like, if there's any other dungeons I prefer. I just love that place. It's so much variety. really cool color palette. I don't know. I love Tezabash.
Nice. I look forward to watching it on a big screen TV. Because, like I said, I've been trying to tank and learn stuff, but I haven't gone into that 10-person dungeon yet. So I don't even know what it looks like.
Speaking of speaking of beautiful maps, I in one of the recent tournaments, right, there is the the arena maps had a different, like, it's almost like they had a weather effect that was different. As what's the bright arena that everyone memes about? You just mentioned it a few seconds ago. I could
Imperium
never remember.
Domain.
Imperium.
Yeah. I think that one had like a weather effect, and it looked really cool. I was like, wow, that's a pretty arena right there when it's when it's not so bright. So, yeah, I
Our
like that a lot.
observers are just like the rest of us. They love going in and like tinkering with things, trying to experiment, see what different things can look like. And I think to the philosophical point earlier, like we're all for like trying to see how things can be different, right? Like we want to be evolving. I think with AWC this year, one of the big points that some people have raised in the community is that the main format is very similar to what we ran last year. Obviously, it's just the one circuit season instead of the two, and we've moved the prize pool from the two circuits essentially into one circuit. So that's nicer for the players in the short term, but it really is kind of a focus on getting the players to that live event and that being the big thing. But beyond that, like we want to be trying to make differences. Like we're going to have the one-offs to start experimenting, just like we did with PvE last year. I want to follow that model for PvP of like, let's have the focus be that Shadowlands final. That's the real capstone. We want to, send off the expansion with an absolute great tournament there and have the champion of Shadowlands crowned. But after that, we want to be going into these more experimental things, like what could AWC look like in the future? Come up with some different ideas there, just like we did with TGP on the dungeon side. And I think that's a long spin-off from talking about different themes in the Imperium domain, but it kind of speaks to that same thinking that we've had over the last year or so, which is, if there's an opportunity to experiment, let's experiment. We might see something that we really like. So the observers have been given that. I won't say all clear because there's some stuff they could do which I probably wouldn't like, but they've been given a degree of freedom there, and they've been doing some really cool stuff with it.
I
Nice.
like it from the viewer perspective. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think I saw one where they put on the that potion of inky darkness or whatever. It turned the whole sky dark.
Inky black potion. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, that was really good. Okay, I think couple like, there's just a couple questions that I know I wrote down. I just kind of want to punch through them quickly. It should be pretty quick answers. So as far as I saw, everything's going to be YouTube again, like always, because we're still on that exclusivity. Are you guys going to allow for co-Twitch streams or co-streaming at all throughout any of these tournaments?
So actually, for the Classic Arena tournament that's coming up this month, we do allow co-streaming. That one will also be broadcasted on Twitch and YouTube. The
Nice.
Specifics of the broadcast we have on YouTube really is focused on those kind of premier products, the ones that have the full season into the finals. So the Mythic Dungeon International season and the live event will all be hosted exclusively on YouTube, as will the Arena World Championship, the cups, the circuit, and the finals there. So we're super excited to be on YouTube again for that this year. I totally get that there's a big demand for player co-streaming, having broadcasts on Twitch and on YouTube, so that audiences who prefer it on Twitch, audiences who prefer it on YouTube can consume that content. So that's something that we're once again focusing on for these more one-off style events. So the experimental events that we're doing for AWC later in the year, for example, or for the arena side of the program, those are something that will likely be hosted on Twitch and YouTube with the ability for the players to co-stream them.
Nice.
Same is true of the Classic Arena tournament, and then any other stuff that I started to hint toward earlier for Classic down the line as well.
Darn hints. All right. At the LAN, assuming that the LAN actually happens,
Mhm.
is it going to be, or is there going to be a meet the players at all? Like if we go there, is there going to be like some formal event, or is it going to be us sitting in chairs and 20 feet away are the players sitting at some computers?
So all of that's TBD, and I know that's not the most fun answer, but it really does come down to health and safety for us. So
Of course.
uh, there's a risk assessment when it comes to it, and health is the number one priority for us when it comes to this event. We want to make sure that all the players are comfortable, all the talent and crew and staff working the event, health, in a situation that sets them up for being in a healthy and safe environment there. So that's the number one priority when it comes to the event. We haven't, I don't think it would be right for us to make that assessment right now, since the event is still a fair way out and things can change over time.
Of course.
But that would impact decisions such as what would a live audience look like if we're able to have one at all? Would there be meetups with the players directly at the event? These are the kinds of things that I can't, I can't give a definitive answer on right now, but
Okay.
we are looking at them for sure.
All right. I appreciate, even if it's not a definitive answer, it's still an answer and not yeah, I appreciate that. All right. One last question that I want to ask before I let Big ask the big question that we always ask. So, and we're going to talk about this in the news again, but just recently they talked about cross faction. It's going to be hitting the PTR in 9.25. Obviously, that's way in the future. That's yeah, I'm not even sure if that's going to even affect AWC this year, because we don't even know what date that is. But I have to ask. And I'm assuming, I think I know what the answer is already going to be, because live equals TR. But how are you guys thinking of envisioning, or how are you going to implement that? Is it going to be just a free for all like it's on live? Or are you going to maneuver that a little bit? Because there's some pretty funky racials that there's some combos there.
So yes. So firstly, this is really cool, right? I love that. Like, it's something that the community I know has been talking about for a very long time, and that was a big news point this week. So I was really excited. Like, I mean, I think anyone who plays a lot of arena or dungeons or raids is probably pretty stoked and interested to see what happens with this change. So that's the first point. The announcement, I know they mentioned it's happening in 95, so obviously it won't be an immediate thing. I know they've been talking about it a little bit in the blue post that went out, but basically this is a huge change, right? Like, it's going to take some time to structure it, and that's also true for us. We're currently investigating what it was going to take to enable this for our tournament realms as well, though you hit the nail on the head that as soon as it is available in the live game, we want to be, we'll monitor like exactly how we go about the rollout of this feature, but we really want it to be available. Maybe there's a world where the first time cross faction is played is at the finals, for example, right? Like, wouldn't that just be another super cool twist for that event if players are able to play Horde and Alliance on the same team for the first time there? Not saying that's what we're going to do, but that excites me, and I think we want to make sure that feature is highlighted on our shows, and it's something that players are really excited for. We want to enable that excitement once again. What was the other point? Oh yeah, and it is something that will impact us this year for sure. That's something I can say definitively.
Awesome.
Nice. It's obviously a big change for the community. I think I'm definitely excited for that. I've been playing Alliance. I love playing Alliance Druid, right? Night Elf is way more fun than playing Tauren, in my opinion. So I can't wait to get with, the huge, massive player base that is playing Horde right now in North American servers. But speaking of changes, this is one thing we always ask our guests. So, Adrian, say you're given all the resources in the world, right? Unlimited budget. What is one thing you would maybe like to see implemented it could be any sort of experimental thing for WoW Esports, or maybe for one of the Blizzard titles in general. What would you change? What would be the big thing that you would do with unlimited resources?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's a question, isn't it? There's so many ways. Let me think about it. Um, I think one thing that's always excited me that we haven't had so much experimentation with so far is I love the Race to World First. The broadcast is always absolutely amazing, and each year it's growing, and we're seeing new creative things coming out of all the different teams. Liquid picking up Limit, I'm sure, is only going to be a continuation of that, as well as everything that's happening in Europe with the various teams. Echo, all those teams that are really popping off on that side. Golden Guardians. There's so many great guilds creating a bid for that race, and also great content as around it. So I think if I could choose an area that I'd really like to experiment with in the future, outside of the M plus AWC, it would be trying to create something like a raid race to accompany that. So we have Race to World First, which is the real progression originally of the tier that happens. It launches, everyone's on that race to get the World First kill. I think it would be really cool if later in the tier, once everyone's really decked out, they're min-maxing their characters, they've got their set bonuses, their double legendaries, all these things. If we had another event that was a big race of how quickly the teams could kill the entire raid, or maybe even with some scaling, how quickly they could go through all the raids from that expansion. So I think that would be something really, really fun to work with. I guess that's my answer. That's what I'm happy with.
So basically like an expansion speedrun. Like
Yeah, something like that. I think that would be super cool.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. It might be a pretty long broadcast, but
So be it.
so be it.
It reminds me of the weekend when Spiky Nick from Diabolus decided that he was going to run every single
Oh yeah, wow.
raid.
It was all for charity, right? I remember that. That was super,
it was charity. Yeah. He did like almost like 72 hours or something like that. It was insane. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Sorry, Big. I need you to repeat the question to me.
Oh, okay. So Gerissar, say I give you a big sum of cash that you can influence Blizzard with, or you can change the game, do anything you want with this money, related ideally to WoW Esports. But what's one thing you'd change? What's one thing you would invest all these resources in?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I was hoping that would give me enough time to delay and actually come up with a real answer.
It's a hard question to answer immediately. I felt the same.
Wait, I have an answer to the question. If I can ask it to myself.
Go for it.
My number one dream has always been to direct a documentary about WoW Esports and the history of WoW Esports. And so if I was given an unlimited budget, I think I could do a great job. So that's my dream. I would make a documentary about WoW Esports and the storyline that went into, where the AWC now is now, and tracing it back to its origins. I think it'd be really fun to kind of trace that storyline back to where it started. So that would be where I would spend my money, and I think it would be really fun.
That's awesome. All right, I have one. It was never my idea. I'm stealing it from somebody else. It's something that I would love to do. I don't know if we'll ever get the resources or the time to be able to put it together. I would love to have an esports pre-show. So, just like in front of, standard sports where there's usually a pre-show, it talks about the players, who to look out for, all that stuff. I would love if that was actually a thing. I'd love to be able to do it. I'm not sure if we're ever going. We've been talking about this one behind the scenes for a while, but I would love to see some money thrown into that and getting, even if like just a half hour before and go through the players, talk about who we're highlighting that day or that show or the team, and help the community get to know these people a little bit better, because not everybody watches streaming, not everybody goes to the Twitch, not everybody goes to the YouTube streamers, but they will go to watch the esport. So yeah, all right. And
those are both super cool ideas. It also, to Bigmoran's point, I remember I watched, because also on the Dojo podcast they had Choice this week, and I remember I watched his video, I want to say like a year ago or so, of the Arena World Championship stories. So I think something like that is really cool, and then I mean obviously a pre-show would be something super cool, and I think that's one thing again, like why I'm really excited for the live event, is because a lot of the media we have captured of the players, like the professionally shot, super high quality headshots and interviews and all these great things, come from those live events, right? And at the end of the day, like we have some really cool stuff that we're able to do online, and I think we've been evolving that over the last couple of years. But I can't wait until we have all that stuff and then can start to build that into the show. And that's pre-show would be super cool as well.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, just kidding. Maybe even do like a especially at the lands, like the pull the player onto the desk just quickly and be like, hey, something like that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. All right, let's. Oh my gosh. I almost kept this on time. I'm actually kind of excited about this. All right, let's talk about some of the upcoming WoW PvP events and the news, and we'll get on out of here.
Get in there and fight! Stop hiding!
Indeed. So the upcoming WoW PvP events, we always talk about this. Dalaran Gaming continues to do his 5v5 1v1 duels. Absolutely a blast. He's actually been doing a bunch of them over on the PTR. So if you want to see some of the wacky stuff that Double Legos and Tier Gear is going to do, head on over there and check him out. Follow his Twitter, Dalaran_Rogue. But he streams over on YouTube. So if you just search up Dalaran Gaming, you'll find him over on YouTube and see his VODs there too. Another fun one, you have Valentine, the Oasis community. They're doing a Valentine's 2v2 tournament. This is going to be on Valentine's weekend, so the 11th and 12th of February. And twist on this one is it's supposed to be for friends. So your bud, your chum, your lover, your spouse, whatever you want to, But yeah, sign up, going over to the Oasis Discord, and you can find the event there and how to sign up. And there's some Blizzard official events. Anyway.
Hey, really?
Yeah, it's a couple coming around the corner.
Wait, did we announce this already? I forgot.
I'm not sure. I lost track of it all. So 18th of February, you're going to see the cat. 18th of March, you're going to see the first cup of the AWC. 15th of April, the MDI, and that's going to finalize in the last stand in mid-May. And then hopefully by then we'll have the other news that Adrian has been teasing us with all night. Oh,
doing my job, right?
Yeah. Eric, give this guy a raise. All right, I think that's about all we actually know for events. Like you listeners, if you know something we missed, let us know, please, so we can highlight it and make sure that other players know about it and can go play. In the meantime, now that we're done talking about what's happening in the future, let's talk about what happened in the past and go through the most recent news.
All right. Who ordered up an extra large can of whoop ass?
All right. I love Millhouse. You should go back and listen to the bumpers just for fun. All right. So Method, they hosted again their Mayhem Battleground Showdown. This was the EU rated Battleground tournament. They hosted it on the 22nd to the 23rd of January. Quick congrats to the team E-Heroes for winning that. That was actually a really, really good tournament. If anybody hasn't seen it, go check it out. It was hosted on the twitch.com/method. The announcement was over on their method.gg site. If you want to just see what the bracket was, we'll have a link for that in the show notes. You can check that out when we publish this tomorrow.
Here's a spoiler alert without a real spoiler, but it came down to the wire. So it was a very exciting finish to that tournament. And if you're an RBG fan, definitely going to want to check that out for sure.
Indeed. If I remember, remind me, it was like the team that got knocked out went down and crawled all the way back through the lower bracket to the finals, right?
Yeah, I think they did a lower bracket, a losers run, as they sometimes call it. I don't mean to
I don't
sound
like
mean,
calling
but
it that.
I like calling it a losers run. It's fun, funny. It sounds funny.
All right, I hate calling it the losers bracket. It sounds so demeaning. It's just the lower bracket, right?
Yeah, but a lower bracket run doesn't sound as good. I like as Adrian would say, I like the underdog, and so if you can make your way
the
through
heroic comeback, yes.
the heroic comeback, we love those stories. But unfortunately, there might not have been the heroic comeback that us North American fans would have wanted. So
true.
But no
speaking
worries.
of which, as you pointed out, although that was an RBG tournament, there was actually a few NA players in it. There was
I think they have their own team. Yeah, it's exciting. I always love to see the EU NA RBG tournaments because it's one thing we don't see too often, and it's always very exciting. It's like a little treat.
Indeed. Anybody that's willing to try to PvP with that much ping, good on you.
For sure.
So we mentioned that the Oasis community has an event upcoming. They actually just had 2 recent events that passed. They started off the year with the 25th of January. They had a 2v2 tournament. That was the individual sign up. So solo queued and they made teams and then went at it. So quick congrats to the team Time for Confession, Sir, which was Lithra and the Candyman. And they won with a Discipline Shadow Priest combination. And I can see Adrian smiling in the camera hearing that. And then the 30th of January, they did a 3v3 team sign-up tournament, and congratulations to the team Pillarmen for winning that. And that was Mortal, Kyra, and Mock playing Prop Paladin, DK, Arms Warrior. So basically they ran in, they Kyrian Speared, Ashen Hollowed, and popped a whole bunch of cooldowns, and people died. But I will admit, so they did that the first game, and then the second matchup, teams started fighting back and started countering, and that tournament went to a double finals because they did double
bracket reset.
They did a bracket reset, so that and it went like right to the last game. I highly recommend it. That was a fun one to watch. As sickening as Prop Paladin DK Arms Warrior sounds, it was still fun to watch. So I think I should actually mention Choice, who is actually in our chat right now, was one of the casters for that. So kudos to you, Choice, by the way. You did a great job, in my opinion. I love some of your analyses and the job you did. All right. Adrian, I'm going to throw this one to you because you spoke of it, that you are rad. What was this all about? You seem to know a bit more than I do.
Yeah, this was a really cool tournament. Obviously, any tournament that's raising money for a good cause, for a good charity is already rad. So I thought that was nice. It was announced alongside Liquid's announcements when they were entering World of Warcraft, and they partnered up with Echo for this one. So basically, it was a speed run through the most recent raid to have both the guilds seeing who could do it the fastest. But it wasn't really about the competition. It was more about the fun because they had this interesting twist where they added affixes to the raid bosses. So obviously there aren't actually affixes in the raids. They had to come up with their own. So one of my favorites is gosh, I don't remember the name of the boss, the eye laser boss, the one that turns around and zaps you with the beam. I've died to that beam several times. But basically, the boss has a beam which goes 360 around the map, and if it touches you, you can basically say that you're dead. And they had to kill that boss with toggle walk on, so they couldn't they couldn't run.
That's the one they were
So they had
RP
to
walking
position
on.
really, really smart. Yeah, they had RP walking on for that boss, so that was really fun. But basically, they had an affix like that designed for each of the bosses. Both the guilds had to contend with it. It was a really cool event, and then Liquid in the end even added their own affix in addition to the pre-made affixes for the last boss, where they started singing during Sylvanas. For all their mechanics, they had to sing them. So that was also really fun to watch.
Now I have to go back and watch them because I missed those fun ones. I did remember I saw one where it wasn't one of the tanks was blindfolded, where he was
Yep.
trying to tank the boss blind. Oh my god!
There's some really good clips from Now's stream of him.
That's
His chat was also adding affixes on with some of his emotes. So yeah, I would try and hunt that one down if I were you as well.
All right, I'll definitely go and check that out. But yes, you're correct. The biggest winner of them all was the Your Rad for rising above the disorder. Interesting thing, it was pointed out to me by our community. I did not know about this. I'm not sure if Big or yourself knew, but the guild or the rise above the disorder was actually originally a PV, or not a PvP, but a World of Warcraft guild that then turned into this fundraising community. So I think that the fundraiser that I think is really awesome. I think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. No, I actually learnt about that during the weekend as well. I think Aya was talking about it at some point during the broadcast, and I just think it's so cool. And one of the reasons I love WoW is just because how positive the impact of the community can be, and like we really have high highs when it comes to these things. Like I think you are rad are a great symbol of that. They've done a number of different events over the course of the last year or so, and
Dude,
yeah, the fact they start in WoW and now are doing so much for a good cause, I just think it's totally brilliant.
I totally agree. Just for anybody listening, as far as I know, the charity is still going. So I will have a link in the show notes here. If you want, you can just go over to the Echo Guild. I know they tweeted it there as well, or just find the You Are Rad team. And if you still want to donate some money to the Rise Above the Disorder, go ahead and find them. They're working towards, if I remember correctly, a 75,000 goal. And I think they're still working towards it. I don't think they quite made the goal yet. So highly recommend that. Let's see here. Oh, thanks, Kexman. Sorry. Kexman popped in there. He, one of the Warcraft radio folks, and also the caster who is working his way to hopefully be picked up for the MDI, if I'm not mistaken, or the AWC. But he just popped into the chat and said hi because he's been listening to us in the background. That was the paid plug that he paid me to say. So.
There you go. I've seen him. I'm a big fan of the Kexman casts.
He's I love the energy he brings. So much knowledge, man. All right, so hot fixes. We always have these. PvP wise, the enhancement shamans had a small bug apparently with the Ride the Lightning PvP talent and the bonus chain lightning. So that's been fixed. Again, if you want to, you can check it out in the show in the hot fixes. Those are published quite publicly. And the Burning Crusade honor gear grind was slightly adjusted. I'd say much to the hooray and the huzzah of all of the Burning Crusade Classic folks. That was quite the change, actually. That went from what looked like to be a tough grind to being something quite manageable. I don't know. What do you guys think? Did it make that much of a difference, do you think, or am I making this just too much of a thing?
I think for sure. I think anything that increases the accessibility of the game is really helpful. I think, one of the big obstacles that people have is, gearing characters. And I think anything that kind of reduces the bar for that is generally good for the game. So I'm happy to see that change for sure.
Yeah. I've been loving it. One of my favorite things about the change is that they didn't just focus on battlegrounds for that, which is the main way you acquire honor in the game.
Mm-hmm.
They also increased the honor you can get from open world PvP, which I think was really cool. I actually, yeah, I think this is something that we definitely want to have a topic. Maybe we'll even try get a guest on for the classic arena tournament so that they can talk a little bit more about these changes, because this is something that we, I just think is super cool that the classic team is, trying to increase that accessibility to the show. So I've been leveling my mage or gearing my mage. I've been benefiting from these a lot. I've been very happy about it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, just looking through these all. The battleground mark costs for season 1 gear were removed. Cost for the Vindicator items reduced in half. The amount of the Halal and Tarot card PvP daily bonus honor significantly increased. The Hellfire fortification increased. Like that. Yeah, just so many great things. I have fond memories of camping the flag at the Hellfire fortifications, just waiting for the flag to switch over before somebody comes in and ganks me.
Yep.
Oh man. All right. You'd mentioned it as well. Again, the Play with the Blues that happened on the 28th of January to test the solo shuffle, as well as the new arena, the Maldroxus Coliseum there. Link to the show notes for the feedback forums. If you did test the solo shuffle, please go over to the forums, give Blizzard your feedback on how it felt. They're still trying to tweak it a little bit. I absolutely loved it. I sucked. I was horrible. I was playing Disc Priest, and I was being told how bad I sucked when I was playing it. But I was having fun. I was whispering people. I was getting some. I was actually improving somewhat over the time, but it was absolutely a blast. And I think the fact that it had no actual rating tied to it, it was just go in. You could be playing with. I was a scrub, and I'm pretty sure I was playing with Nuts at one point. I think I was playing with somebody that had the word Magnus in their name. Although I did whisper Magnus, and he said it wasn't him, but it must have been another Magnus. I saw. I saw Soda in. We talked. Cherry was playing. Big, you were playing. Venruki was playing. I mean, like all this stuff, and I'm expecting we're going to see the same thing come live. Rainswept Flower there in chat. She was playing even too. I remember seeing her too. So lots of really great people, wide breadth of experience. It was a lot of fun. I think so long as you go in knowing that you're going to have that huge breadth of player base, just kind of winging at it, and it's just there for fun, then I think people will enjoy it. I think if somebody goes in there with the expectation it's all going to be a bunch of rank ones and just trying to steamroll and farm honor, people get really competitive, and some competitive mindsets get a little salty. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But again, like I said, if you had, I'm going to ask you, Big, what was you kind of talked about the Coliseum, you enjoyed the map, but the solo shuffle itself, what was your experience?
I like it. I think some classes that typically aren't that good on ladder are surprisingly good in solo shuffle. Like I think warlocks are actually really good in the format, ironically, because I mean all of the warlock specs are kind of something where they get shut down really easily, like affliction especially, they tend to get trained. But in an environment where there's more chaos, like that's I think where warlocks tend to shine is, there's not coordinated goes on them, so they can do more of their things. The one thing I will add is that it does feel a bit fast, and I like the pace of, the one game ends, the next game starts. But man, like I need to make a week or something that tells me to change my talents, because I think that's the biggest thing is like, oh, you forget to change your talents in between the games. At least I was.
Yeah.
But I think that just kind of adds to the chaos, and I think overall it's a pretty fun experience.
Yeah, agreed. And you're right. The pacing was really good. Because because as a healer, like the mana regen was really reduced. The amount of healing, it wasn't. There was no dampening. I didn't feel dampening.
There's dampening. I think it starts at 2 minutes and it just ramps up really, really fast.
Okay.
It's either 2 minutes or 3 minutes and just instantly just goes up really fast.
I didn't live that long.
The pace of the games was really fast. I thought the same. I think I don't know. I'm really excited about the potential of that mode. When we were going back to Lead Greed Pass, I could totally see some formats where we would want to experiment with this. I think this is super cool. And it's in its testing cycles right now, so there's going to be a lot of feedback. This was the first public playtest, and I think the only way is up for that.
So it's interesting because I totally forgot. You just kind of jogged my memory, but there was some data mining that showed that there's a war game facility added for Solo Shuffle. So there's a possibility to do some tournaments in Solo Shuffle mode.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, wargaming for a mode like that is something that we totally want to explore. I would say that when something like that comes out, it's obviously going to take the community by storm, and people want to get excited about it, and quite rightly so. It's a really cool mode. So assuming that ends up going in and things are looking good in that sense, I could totally see community events, and I would be really excited to see community events on that format as well.
I like it. All right. Oh, okay. One more thing, just give me shivers. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? When you have so many list of things that give you shivers right now, it's awesome.
Yeah, I just want it all to happen. Give me all the stuff. Give all the stuff now. Okay. Speaking of giving stuff, Blizzard was kind enough to give a new EULA change to stop boosting. So this was absolutely fabulous. I can't wait. Actually, it's already implemented, right? It was implemented immediately when they announced it. So if anybody doesn't know, so if you're in a guild, if you're doing like a gold boosting service for a guild to raise some, try to put money, more gold back into the guild bank, and you're taking through a couple people to do mythic dungeon or something like that, you're good. Don't worry about it. You're fine. But if you're some big unnamed Discord community where you have people sitting in trade chat and LFG farming boosting advertising boosting services and just overloading the game where people can't even communicate properly and whatnot, those, you're gone. Bye-bye. So that's really the difference. That said, it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen in, let's say, a week, if some of those communities are going to try to find a way around this and whatnot. But as far as I understand, a bunch of the big communities, the big gold boosters, have all shut down. They've paid out all their gold that they owed, and they are gone for now. So the upside is Twitch chat, or not Twitch chat, sorry, Trade chat has gone back to talking about Mankirk's wife, what's going on in the Shadowlands. And I'm sure there's probably some political discussions there that probably shouldn't be happening in Trade chat, but they're happening there. So,
there's always a classic joke about invincible the mount. That's
yes.
Why is he called invincible if you can see him, right? Like that was always a Trade chat favorite.
I forgot about that one.
Yes.
There's what's the item? The blessed Thunder Theory as well that always gets spammed in Trade chat.
Yes. Good memes.
Yeah. So many good ones.
Did somebody say Thunder Fury?
Yes.
Love it. All right. I think we talked about the cross faction. Oh, Adrian, congratulations on boosting the esports team, man. Saw this most recent tweet from Ferris, who announced she got hired on the WoW Esports team. That's absolutely amazing. So, yeah.
I mean, you phrased it perfectly as well, because it truly is congratulations to us. Ferris, impressed all of us and has impressed all of us through, all the awesome stuff she's been doing in the WoW community. And I am genuinely incredibly excited to work with her more. I think she's someone who kind of truly embodies what you want in someone trying to, make the tournaments as fun as they can be, as good as they can be, has all that initiative from the community. And yeah, I know she's super excited to be working on the shows this year. We're really excited to have her. So I'm thrilled about this for sure.
Awesome.
Just as an aside, does she main Resto Druid?
Yes, that was something that was picked up on by a few different people. I think she had a bit of back and forth with Limit about it. I think JB also made a comment about Resto Druid getting picked up for something, which I thought was amusing as well.
Yeah, we need more Resto Druids.
Yeah,
we need nature swift a cyclone back. As I'm rubbing my hands together, I'm scheming.
I made a joke at the start of I don't remember the start of, I guess, last year at this point, that we're like taking all the Moonkins from the community, because we have on our talent desk, we have Nagura, we have Teddles, and we have Super Teas. And back when I was making that joke, there wasn't very many Moonkins, but now, of course, there's way more of these Moonkins appearing now. So it's fun. It's fun to see the ebb and flow of these things.
So just out of curiosity, is there a certain, like, if a person signs up or applies to the job and they're like, I don't know, playing Prop Paladin with 2200 rating, is that like an immediately, no, you're not going to get hired, you're banned? Or is it, no, I'm kidding.
No. Yeah,
of course not. Of course
a
not.
good meme.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it for us. That's it for the show. Quickly, I'm going to ask you, Adrian, do you have anybody you want to shout out?
Shout outs. So I really want to shout out. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but the signups are open for all of the tournaments we discussed. So, whether you're a retail PvP player, a retail PvE player, or you love classic TBC, then there are tournaments open for all of these different branches of the game right now. So go over to Game Battles, check those out. The most immediate one that you need to be looking at is the Classic Arena tournament. Signups for that close in just a couple of short weeks. So we're really, really getting close on that one. Make sure you put your team in today, because, if you forget and you're past the deadline, then you'll miss out on potentially that title and potentially some of the prize money there as well. So plus, it's tournament realm. You get to play with all your favorite gear. You get to experiment there, try different classes, all those things. So it really is a good time. So I'd thoroughly recommend anyone, even if you don't have a level 70 in TBC, like, go look at it. If you see people streaming, you're like, oh, I don't want to do the level grind right now, then you can sign up for the tournament still, get a character. All you need is that WoW subscription, and you can go play, right? Have fun in the tournament there. So that's my biggest shout out. Obviously, shout out to you guys as well for having me on the show. I really love this show just because it's such a conversation, right? Like, this is just a bunch of people who love WoW talking about all the different news and all the different things that are going on. So I would probably be doing this in my free time anyways. So it's really cool to come onto the show and do it with you guys. So I guess, those are my two biggest shout outs.
We appreciate it.
Oh, that's huge love. Oh, thanks. I'm going to, all right, I'm a little choked up. Big. Do you have any shout outs?
Yeah, I have a shout out to the Skill Capped editing team for, again, I keep on talking about this Road to Glad series, but it is a massive project. There's a lot of work going into it. Once again, just to update anyone who might not be aware, we took from a pool of 1,000 applicants, we took 3 average players, average PvPers, and we're giving them weekly lessons to try to teach them the skills that they need to get Gladiator. So our team started at around 1900 rating, and so we're seeing how far they can get, and you can follow along. Again, I don't have a exact release date for the first episode, but it should be by the end of the week, and then subsequent episodes should be weekly. So I'm very excited for that. It's been a big project of mine in the past. It's basically been the bane of my existence, admittedly, the past few weeks. It's been all I've been working on, but it's been really fun.
Nice. I can't wait to see it. I'm gonna shout out you, Adrian. Thank you very much for joining us. And we didn't really talk about this, but congratulations on your promotion, because if I'm not mistaken, you've been promoted to the associate product manager. So you're in charge of all of the esports, not just the MDI, right? So I want to give a congratulations to you for that, and thank you again for joining us. This is it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, man.
Yeah, I will say on that, well, thank you, of course. But there's absolutely no, I wouldn't want to take all the credit or even close to that for everything that comes with the shows. There's a ton of people behind the operation. I know for WoW Classic right now, I'm actually only a very small part of what's happening with the TBC tournament. We have other people on the team who are putting a ton of really good work into that event, making it as good as it can possibly be, as well as the whole team, the broadcast team, the promoters, the talent that we'll have on the show, the crew behind them. So it really is a full. I think a phrase that people say is it takes a blizzard to make a blizzard. I think it takes a WoW Esports team to make a WoW Esports. So it's it's really a team effort when it comes to putting this stuff together.
Of course. Yeah, I think, and you're right. Like, we're always used to seeing the person in the camera frame, but not realizing all the other work that's happening behind that. So, but still, being in charge of all that is not an easy feat either. So, congrats. Just speaking, I guess, of you, I know you used to stream in that. Are you still streaming? Are you still on Twitter? Where can we find you on the internet, man?
Yeah, so it's been a bit more tricky. My day-to-day has got a bit more busy, so I don't have the same amount of time I used to stream, unfortunately. I periodically, you might see a stream, so give it a follow on my Twitch channel. I believe it's just Healingstat, but it might be Healingstatty. I believe it's Healingstat.
I think it's Healingstat.
But more likely, my Twitter is probably where you're going to see more stuff from me. So Twitter Healingstat is, if you want some of those sarcastic British comments, the odd joke here and there, a lot of retweets of all the cool stuff that's going on our shows, and also in the community, talking about the charity event, the Oasis events, all these cool things. I try and, whenever I see them, give them a retweet. So follow me for more information on those things.
Nice.
And yeah, I guess also, if I'm giving shout outs to social channels real quick, I'll give a shout out to the WoW Esports Twitter as well. We have our fancy 15-year logo, since this is our 15th year of WoW Esports. So
yes,
nice polished brand new logo. It's always nice to get a new look on those social channels. So follow that, and if you're wondering, like, what are those one-offs that I've been teasing for Classic, for the arena side of retail later in the year, and for PvE, then you'll want to stay tuned on that channel as well.
definitely. I definitely have it ourselves. We have it on follow, and even have the little alert on it, so the phone buzzes off every time you guys tweet on that, so we know what's going on. So I highly recommend everybody else do the same. And there's usually some pretty good memes that show up on it every once in a while as well, courtesy of the social media person behind that. So
yeah, we have Fist working behind the scenes on that, and she is, for those who haven't met her in person, if you get the opportunity to, or meet her online, then she's a hilarious person. So you can see where all the good quality content comes from.
Exactly. All right, that's, I think, big. I think we're done. Do you want to list off to everybody where they can find us?
Yes, you can contact us directly with a tweet to @technically_PvP, or by an email to technicallypvp@gmail.com. Of course, you can always join our discussions on the Warcraft Radio Discord.
Indeed. And you can also visit the Warcraft Radio website, where you're going to find a podcast directory with us and, well, a whole bunch of other really great shows over at warcraftradio.com. And don't forget that directory does have a review system. So you can head over there and, let everybody know what you think of our show and all the other favorite shows. But with that, links for everything we've talked about is going to be in the show notes. I want to thank you all for listening, and we'll chat with you next time. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.